Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Corner. Whoop, whoop. Yay!
Yay!
This is episode 80.
80.
Getting close to the 100.
Woo.
So we're getting there. Today is an episode where we go back to the roots. So no guests, no cool people around us, just me and Jen hanging out.
It's the coolest people we know.
Cool people. And today we're going to, I was just about to say predict the future, but that's not really what we're going to do. Try to not, but I don't know how to say this, but almost try to not predict the future. So essentially, we're going to be asking the question today. Instead of typically people always want to know what are the things that are changing in the next 5 years, like predict the future.
Yes.
But the whole thesis is you can't predict the future. So instead, we're going to ask the question today, what are the things that are not going to change within the next 5 years
Yes.
in marketing?
In marketing.
And with that said, like, do you want to kick it off, Jen? Like, what are some of the things that you maybe think that are not changing in the next 5 years? Of course, nobody knows, but what like?
Yeah, I think this is actually a really good point, and a really good question. I was asked this on the Beyond the Pipeline podcast. Shout out to Vivian. Hey, buddy, over in India. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting question because this is kind of the stuff we should try to build for, right?
Yes.
The things that are constant. And I will say first, my first instinct when I heard this question was a bit of a doom and gloom answer. I'm worried that something that will not change in the next 5 years is that marketers will continue spending more time explaining what we do than doing it.
Yeah, I don't think that ever changes.
That's so depressing to me that people won't trust us to do our jobs. So that's one thing. But maybe, I don't know. I don't think we have an answer to that.
No, but I like that is what it is, right? I think mine is also not doom and gloom, but like I think mine originates from like the Jeff Bezos. He was kind of like he was asked the same question, and I really took that to heart. I don't always take everything Jeff Bezos says to heart, but he was asked the question like to predict the future, and he said like I can't do that. But instead at Amazon they ask what are the things that are not going to change, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things he brought up was the fact that it's about customers, and what he said was, in 5 years from now, are people going to not care about prices? No, of course they want the cheapest price.
Yep.
And they want fast delivery. Like nobody's going to be in 5 years, hey, I really want slow delivery. Like, please
to
deliver my
wait.
package in 6 months.
Yeah.
No way. They want fast, they want convenience, right?
Yeah.
So these things are not changing. So their customer, and for Amazon, that means like high customer service focus. Like, because that thing's not going away. And so I kind of took that to my marketing because I was asked actually a very similar question 2-3 weeks ago on a podcast, and like, hey Casper, what are the things that are going to change in marketing in 5 years? And I was like, I don't know, like nobody knows, but I can tell you the things I don't think that are changing.
AI.
And one of the things I brought up was personal branding.
Okay.
I think personal branding is changing, but it's not changing in 5 years. I think we've started to see that personal branding is really important, but the thing is, it's always been.
Yeah.
Like people just haven't utilized it properly. It might change in the format, like you might do LinkedIn, you might do Instagram. There might be a whole new platform we don't even know yet that's really important to be on in 5 years. But it doesn't change the fact that your personal brand is super important. And it's important to carry that with you, whatever you do. If you're in marketing, in sales, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Personal branding is super important now. It's super important in 5 years. I don't think that changes.
That's a good one. I think that's interesting. I would also add, going on your kind of customer support, I think what won't change is people want a frictionless process, whether it's sales, whether it's support, whether it's help. They want the help they need when they need it.
Yeah.
They want the information when they need it. They don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's constant. And I think that was really amplified during Corona.
Yeah.
You know, when we were all at home and the only thing we had were our computers.
Yeah.
I think a McKinsey report said we gained 5 years of digital savviness in like 10 months.
Yeah, it was
because
crazy.
All we were doing, right? So I don't want to talk to your salesperson. I don't want to do a discovery call. I just want what I want when I want it, please. And I think that that's not going to change.
And it goes back to this whole convenience part, right?
Yes.
Like I think the convenience, like it's kind of like there's this saying in Danish. I think it exists in English. Like you want to jump the fence where it's the lowest, right? Like that's a
I
saying.
don't know if we have that, but like
you kind of get the picture. Like it makes sense. Like
compared to most Danish phrases, that one makes the most sense.
This one makes a lot of sense. It's like, why would you jump the highest fence? Like, just jump the lowest.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I think sometimes people are when they use it is like a little bit misused. And I think the point is just like saying people will always do that. Like people will always try to take the shortest route to victory.
Yes, we do
Right?
take the shortcuts. Yes.
And the shortcuts that's going to be in. So
Yeah.
create shortcuts. Think
Yes.
about like what's the shortest route to victory for my customer, for my person that I want to talk to or something. I think that doesn't change in 5 years either.
And one of episode 7, I just had to Google it. I just had to go into
It
my
might
Google
change in
sheet.
5 years.
We talk about in that episode of Kiss the Buyer Journey, keep it simple, stupid. And
Yeah.
there's a Harvard Business Review report. Maybe we can link in the show notes if we
Yeah,
remember,
definitely.
where it says that people are willing to pay more money for your product if you make the process easy. That was an episode we did in 2021, and that has not changed in
No.
the last 3 years. So it's probably not going to change in the next 5 years.
No, totally. And here's the thing for all the people who are worried about AI. So let's actually, because here's, and this is more like it's probably more a prediction because like I can't for certainty say this, but I feel very confident in saying if you're good at something, if you're really good at something, you're not going away in 5 years.
Yes.
If
Agreed.
you're really good at something, you're not going away in 5 years. If you're a good copywriter, no one's going to replace you in 5 years. If you're a good designer, no one's going to replace you in 5 years. Yes, if you're shit, if you're bad, if you're a bad copywriter, if you're a bad designer, if you're a bad marketeer, then AI might replace you. But if you're good at your job, don't worry, you're not getting replaced in 5 years.
Yeah, and I think this is again like, God, history repeats itself because I think we've had this conversation before when GDPR was coming out.
Yep.
And everyone's like, no, good marketers who have first party data,
They will
know what
stick
they're
around.
doing, they'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's those dodgy fuckers of you out there, and you know
Yep.
who you are, who are scraping data, who are not using legal data, who are not
Yep.
using things the right way. You're the ones in trouble.
Yes.
So it's that kind of that motion of if you're good at what you do, you're going to be okay.
Exactly.
It keeps continuing.
And I think that's continuous. Like so like don't. I spoke at a AI. It was an AI conference.
You said the word AI.
Yeah, but
You
it was
said
like, okay, so I can say this. It's not a podcast. I say this with the utmost of love in my voice. This was, I can't think, it's kind of interesting. I haven't told you the story. So I was speaking at a conference. It was last week. It was an AI conference in, of all places, Kalundborg. And the average age, and this is just me spitballing here, but I think was like 60.
Yeah.
Average. There was
Sounds
a guy
like
who was in
Kalundborg.
93 there. At the
Bless
event.
him.
There
Hey.
was like 50, 80 people or something. 80 signups. I think only 50 showed up or something like that. Cool. But there was a lot of old people. And I actually think like in the first I was laughing about it. And then after I was like, I kind of feel that's cool. Like all the old people are just like, hey man, this AI wave, I need to go to a conference and understand
need
what
to
the
know
fuck
what the
it
hell's
is.
going on.
I had
Yeah.
a lot of respect for that.
Yeah,
In the beginning I was
absolutely.
like, yeah, oh, there's a lot of old people. But now I'm later, I'm like, actually I think that's kind of cool. Like,
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I
like,
think it's-
I hope I'm that lady in the audience at night. God bless if I make it to 93 with my life choices.
93 at an AI conference. What
An
the
AI
fuck? It's super
conference.
cool.
That's amazing.
But we had this like panel debate after the talks,
Mm-hmm.
and they could ask questions, and a lot of the questions were like worried about getting replaced and such. And like a lot of them, I was like, there was a guy, an old guy in the audience. Who's, I'm not worried. I'm gonna pension next year. Like, who cares? Like, I'm not worried about AI. But I think like in general, like old people shouldn't worry about AI.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're getting replaced tomorrow by AI. Like, it doesn't. That's not how I see the world changing. Like, so yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of my point. Is like the people who worry about AI, like, you probably shouldn't worry about AI.
Yeah.
It's the same people who are worried about truckless drivers or like trucks
Yeah.
without drivers. It's
Yeah.
like these driverless cars. Like, yeah, they will replace them jobs, but you'll find new jobs.
yeah.
There'll be new jobs. History repeats itself.
Yeah.
Whenever something comes along and people are always worried about their jobs, well, we reinvent ourselves.
Yes.
Like you reinvent yourself.
Yes.
Will it require that you're adaptable? Of course it will. But that's the name of the game.
That's what happens. I
Yeah.
mean, I started my career right around when there was no Facebook.
Yeah.
And now, I made
Exactly.
my first part of my career off of Facebook. And now no one's using Facebook. Now we're using something else. I'm sure
Exactly.
people are using Facebook, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. What won't change in the next 5 years?
I think like there will always be social platforms.
Yes.
Like and I think so social platforms, I don't see social platforms going away. Whatever they're called, that might be different in 5 years. Some of the big ones are probably not going away, like who knows? But I think how companies use social platforms should change. It's probably not going to, but it should change. And I hope this whole like personal branding, her whole personal touch changes to social platforms.
We haven't even talked about America banning TikTok.
No. Well, actually, we should do an episode
We
of
should
just that.
That's not for today.
Not for today.
But holy shit.
Like, stay tuned. Next one. Next
So
one.
when you
folks.
said like, future of SoMe, it's like, well, depends on
Depends on a lot of stuff.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, this is probably a different podcast for another time, but I'm also struggling with, we were having this conversation at home of like, when do we let the kids get on social media?
Yes.
Because it wasn't around when I was probably a teenager when we started ICQ and we had AOL and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's probably change.
Yeah.
That's a change topic, but yeah.
I think another thing that's not going away. You spoke a little bit about it, but tracking issues.
Yes.
Let's take that one as an example. So, like
That's
today,
only gonna
people
get
keep
worse.
talking about tracking back and forth. That's not going to get better in 5 years.
No.
I don't see it getting better ever again. Like, I don't like, yes, when I say ever, maybe in the future where there's something completely, but at least in relatively foreseeable future, 5 to 10 years, I don't see us getting to a point where like, yeah, I can totally attribute. Like, I think I saw a post on LinkedIn today. I was kind of like, I was thinking a little bit about it. It's like, yeah, it's actually spot on. Like, the numbers you see in your metric dashboards for like conversion, like, yes, that might be true, but like conversion value data and all these kind of data points, it's not true actually. It's not like, no matter what the data point says, is actually not true.
Yeah.
Like, because like there's always some glitch, there's always some part of it that's not true. And so I think you just like, the tracking's not going to get better in 5 years.
No.
So
And
learning
prices aren't going to get better in 5 years.
so and so I think the important part is like, if you sit here in this chair right now and from 5 years from now, I'm still not going to be able to properly track marketing ROI. You can get pretty far. You can do a lot of stuff, but I won't ever get to a point where I'm like fully tracking. Then what does that mean for you as a marketeer?
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting question. Like, because then in my perspective, that means, okay, stop relying too much on these things and rely on the things, some other things like branding or like, we said it, right?
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, this is preaching to the choir. Like, this is the thing that we're trying to do so much is stop relying on that first touch attribution. Stop giving 100% of that credit to that. Because I think the thing, when I started early in my performance career, the thing that really hit home for me was that every platform has an incentive to make their platform look the best.
Yeah.
So Google is going to do whatever it needs to do to make sure that's the number one platform. LinkedIn, SoMe, all the SoMe platforms, everyone's going to try to make themselves look best. So even when we didn't have GDPR and we did have really good, in inverted commas, tracking, it wasn't always entirely reliable because everyone had some skin in the game.
Yes.
Now it's even less. And we were talking about this today. We're working on a multi-touch attribution. And people were like, well, is it reliable? And I'm like, well, if they say no to cookies, if they put these things up, if they, if, and then if we go into HubSpot and if the salesperson didn't tag it the right way, there's so many ifs.
Yeah.
So let's stop looking at this shit and start doing what makes sense.
Exactly. And I think that's just that's the essence of it, right? Like, in good marketing doesn't change in 5 years.
Yes.
Good marketing still exists, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just So there's gonna be like, still gonna be tracking issues. There's gonna be, like you talked about it in the beginning, or like there's still gonna be sales and marketing misalignment.
Yeah.
In 5 years, that's not gonna change, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. Sorry to break it to you. Like, there's still gonna be salespeople who have no clue what the fuck you're doing, and you're gonna be screaming, "Where are my leads?" Right? They're gonna be doing that in 5 years too. Like, it's not. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
So again, with that knowledge, then how can you prepare for that?
Yes.
Right? I think some of these like things will never change, and you just have to, as a marketeer, if you keep struggling with these things, you're attacking them wrong. Like, it's not changing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and that's one of the. I think that's one of the reasons we started this podcast, let's be honest, is we try to do common sense marketing. Like, let's bring common sense back into it, because common sense, while not very common, will not go away in the next 5 years, hopefully. And if you can do stuff that makes sense, if you build a strong marketing strategy and a strong GTM and all of that based on things that make sense rather than things that are constantly changing. If you want to future-proof your career, future-proof your practices, and look at what isn't going to change and then build towards that. Be ready for change, of course. Be adaptable. Don't shun AI. Don't shun, just like those people who are like, the internet will never catch on.
No.
Don't shun it, but build for what you can predict. Build for what's going to last. And that is frictionless, people wanting convenience, people wanting transparency.
Exactly.
And being a good marketer with common sense.
I think another one I have on my list, let's call it that, but is that today is really crowded. Like I can't remember let's say you made a SaaS CRM today. Like I think that's the most crowded space out there. I think I can't remember. It's like 10 or 50,000 vendors in that space.
Wild, yeah.
Right. So my point is, these spaces are not going to get less crowded in 5 years. Like more likely, of course, some of it might disappear because new category creation, stuff like that. But fundamentally, no space is getting less crowded in 5 years. Right.
Yeah.
So my point is, what will matter in 5 years, as it always have, standing out from crowd.
Yes.
Figuring out how you stand out from crowd, whether that's like pure positioning, whether that's like, I don't know, a tactical play or whatever it is, right? But figuring out ways to stand out like from the crowd, that will always be relevant.
Yeah.
Because it will only get more crowd.
How you stand out will be different, but the fact that you
Exactly.
have to.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. That's the
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Like how you stand out, that will be very different.
Yeah.
But the fact that you need to, like,
Yeah.
will only be more important over time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably another thing just along the same lines is watching your budget.
Yes.
You got to be smart with how you spend your money, even
Yeah.
in those days where we had all the funding. Remember those
The
days? The heydays. I was in them. I was having
Yeah.
lunch, steaks at lunch on business trips to London. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
We ruined it for everyone else.
Yeah,
though, didn't we? We ruined
everybody,
it for everyone
everybody
else.
got fucked.
Yeah,
That
but
one.
we had a good time while it lasted. But
Yeah.
like, money is always going to be tight.
Yes.
Money's always going to be tight, so you got to be smart with how you spend
You're
it.
going to be restricted on resources forever, right?
Yes, there's never going to be a time where they're going to be like, "Here's a blank check, go nuts."
Yeah.
Very
And
rare.
also, like, personally, I don't really find those cases fun. Like,
Mm.
where with like you have unlimited budget, like, great. Whoa, unlimited expectations too, right?
Yes, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, if you have a blanco check you can just spend, it's like, okay, cool. Like, you got to make sure you really get some value, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's kind of like the who is it? Is it HubSpot or someone offers unlimited vacation,
Yeah.
but you never get a chance to take it because
That's so, like, I've seen those studies and read those, like, it's just,
it looks good.
it's
but,
so weird, right? Like,
yeah.
these companies seem so nice, and when they offer it, but then they actually know that nobody really takes it.
yeah.
And it's a culture thing.
Yeah, and
right?
then there's like a tax something that, because
Yeah.
you don't actually have holiday, we don't have to pay you for holiday. So yeah, it's a. But
It's a
anyway,
weird
that's a different story for a different time. But it's just
Yep.
to kind of demonstrate like this thing that seems really cool is not actually as cool as it sounds.
No, but that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And what, speaking of which, like, marketeers we will also fuck it up for each other in 5 years, right?
We will. Why are we the worst? This is why we can't have nice things.
Marketeers, like always, we always screw the nice things for each other.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, that will not change in 5 years either, unfortunately. We're still gonna find something cool, then we find a way to break it.
Yeah.
Right? It's gonna be the same in 5 years, in 10 years, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, deal with it. Cool. I think I'm out of things that will not
Maybe
change.
have one more. It's
Okay.
not necessarily marketing related.
All right.
But I was recently speaking to someone from another company about leadership
Yes.
and people-centric leadership.
Yes.
And I think that we learned again over Corona, putting your people first
Yeah.
is the priority.
Yeah.
And the companies that put their people first generally see maybe not the huge hockey stick, but definitely a scalable, sustainable business where people
Yeah.
are treated well, they get paid well, and they're given, flexibility versus the companies that
It's
turn
kind of funny
everyone
because
into
like, I feel
factory.
like there was never an alternative. Like, what's the alternative?
Well, those
not
factory-
people focused.
Well, yeah, like
Factories.
profit
Yeah,
focus.
profit focus. Yeah,
profit
that's true.
focus.
No, you're right.
Your
Yeah.
Amazons, and of course, Amazon's doing really well, but no one likes Amazon,
No,
right?
fucking crazy. Actually.
No one thinks highly of it.
It's kind of crazy, right? Like all these companies, like it's they did I can't remember. It was like a Danish small test or something like so especially when like when it came out, like you had to be ecological, right? Like buy ecological eggs and all that kind of stuff. And then before people went into stores, they would always ask people, and then everybody said, "Yeah, of course I'm buying ecological eggs. Yeah, I want to be good for the environment." And then when they asked them after they came out, like, "Yeah, I didn't."
They were more expensive.
They were more expensive. So I think, speaking of which, what is going to change? Like, people in 5 years, people are going to say they do one thing and don't do that thing.
That thing, yeah.
So like understanding what are the underlying trends, I think is not not changing either. I think there's still an underlying trend that like people are, as an example, buying more ecological stuff. That definitely will increase and is increasing dramatically, right? So don't get me wrong, but people, I think my point is more like people say one thing and do another. That will always remain the same.
Yeah.
So also relying on split test stuff, right? Like, yes, are you going to convert more of this? Yeah, I think I will. Yeah, for sure. Or you ask 100 of your friends, do you like my product? Yeah, I love your products. Great. Do you want to pay for it? Yeah, no, out, right?
Yeah.
So relying on this like third party, like whatever, like asking people is a lot different than from seeing them doing stuff. Like, I think that's never going to change either.
Yeah.
Human psychology, right?
Humans are the worst, huh?
Yeah, we're the worst.
We are the worst.
We're the fucking worst. Marketeers even more so.
Yes. But okay, that was kind of our brain dump of things that we don't think will change in the next 5 years.
Please feel free to chime in. Like,
Yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think like there's so much stuff you could cover, but I think I'm interested. Like maybe we should do an episode of like the things we think are gonna change. Like, but that's more that then we take our silver dotted hats on, right?
Oh, our tinfoil hats.
Tinfoil hats.
Tinfoil
sorry,
hats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Danish.
You're
Yeah,
Danish.
yeah.
This is your second language.
Yeah, I'm
It's
sorry.
impressive enough.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
then
it.
the tinfoil hats come on, because then we're predicting shit.
Well, we did. Didn't we do an episode of?
We did one.
Oh, yeah.
But
But
I
we-
think like
yeah.
time has passed so much already. Like, I
Yeah.
want to predict more shit.
I want to predict more shit.
Yeah.
I predict budgets will get smaller.
Yes.
Headcount will decrease.
But at some point it has to increase, right? Like, there's gonna be
Let's
a
see.
stick up again. Like,
Yeah.
historically, it's kind of funny. Like, because we've been at like, so Jen and I both participated in Sassiest two
Yes, we did.
weeks ago.
Shout out to Daniel and Thomas for a wonderful,
Shout out!
wonderful
Please
event.
send merch or
Send
tickets
merch.
or whatever. But cool guys. But
guys.
we did that, and one of the things I was one of the talks I was really happy about. We should do an episode about Sassiest actually. But, yeah, beyond Jen's talk. There we go.
Oh, you.
Yeah. Well, it was a talk about the different stages of SaaS companies.
Yes.
Where it's previously, historically, been growth at all costs.
Yes.
So you wanted high growth, high burn, right? You would burn a lot of cash, but you would also grow really high. Then the crisis came, and you would be like, okay, now we see high burn and low growth. People wouldn't grow that much, but they would still burn a lot of cash. And then the crisis would really hit, and be like, oh fuck. And then you would enter like low growth and low burn, because like everything would be up in the air, like burning.
Yeah.
And now they were predicting, the VCs here were saying, we're gonna enter a phase where it's gonna be, they want us to have high growth and low burn.
Who doesn't?
And I was like, I also
shit.
remember seeing that slide.
I
was
also
like,
want to eat
that's
cake and
great.
lose weight.
Yeah, exactly. I want to eat cake and lose weight. Can I do that? Like,
Does it work like that?
but that's the requirement, the phase we're entering.
Yeah.
So, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, and now we're like, but I think there's gonna be a realization hit when it's like, guys, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't have the same growth rates you had before and lower burn rates.
Yeah.
Like you can to some extent, but you can't. You
Unless
can't have
you
both.
expect your people to work 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
Then you don't need new headcount because you have people doing 3 people's jobs. But I think in that case, and we're maybe going into a different episode.
Yeah,
But
but-
I think when sometimes I look around at different organizations, I'm like, there's a lot of inefficiencies here.
Oh, yeah.
That we could definitely improve upon.
Yeah.
But it challenges existing legacy processes.
Yes.
And no one wants to let go of that because it's kind of working. Like
Yeah.
we have a shitty conversion rate, but at least we have one. So we don't want to get
It's
rid
so
of this.
true.
And we've had this conversation where it's like, okay, will we take a dip in our revenue generation
it's so true.
on hoping that it goes up, or do we just keep doing what we're doing because it's kind of okay? Like,
Okay, last point here. This is great because we just landed a client and they I won't mention it. Nice because it's gonna be really fun. But they do a lot of outbound. Speaking of things that won't change in 5 years, it will change, but we'll still be there.
yeah.
And they did like, I think, and one sales rep would send 36,000 emails in Denmark in 1 week,
36,000.
and they would convert one of them would say, hey, I want to talk to you guys. or something. 36,000.
There's only 5.3 million people in the country.
I didn't do the full math, but just like did the head count. I was like, that's
a
a
lot.
year. Like that's not even like, okay, wow, that's crazy. And Frederick was joking because he's like, yeah, I know you guys. I got 3 of your emails in spam. So, anyways,
heard of you.
Yeah. So, but I think. And people are still going to cling on to that because it works, right? Like
Yeah.
they got one response. That's better
Yeah,
than
that's
nothing,
fine.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the point is probably things that are not going to change in 5 years. Well, sales and outbound, like outbound methods. The methods will change, but outbounding will still exist in 5 years.
Yeah.
There will still be people in your LinkedIn spam folder or whatever it is trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
That will still happen. Deal with it. Yeah.
But
And on that note,
let's rewind to the part of common sense.
it works a bit, right? That's the problem.
It
Like,
works like 2% of the time, which is better than 0%.
and the problem is the
time.
go-to-market motion is not solved for these companies.
Exactly.
Right? Like the
Exactly.
go-to-market motion is not in place. And that's why they cling on to things that at least give them some sort of traction.
Exactly. They give you something, so let's just keep doing it.
Hey, we have a bunch of people. What do we want them to do? Let's do this thing. That at least gives us something.
Yeah.
Right.
But then when you look at the CAC, you're like, oh.
That's really bad.
But
Okay.
that's the problem with looking at CAC is it's so far away, so it's out
Yep.
there.
It's
You
out
don't have to
there.
worry about that. Let's look
and
at
they
this.
have no alternatives, right? Like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't know there's an alternative.
Yeah, and that'll never change.
That will never change. On that note, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for tuning in to
But
our
everything's
rant.
gonna be okay.
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, it
Don't
felt like
worry.
we ended that on a downer, so we're gonna bring it up a notch.
Yes, hockey stick mode.
Hockey stick and activated. What? What? No, but the one thing that won't change is we will always be here for you.
In 5 years. Deal.
Yeah, hopefully if I
Hopefully. Marketing Corner episode 1,000 in 5 years.
Yep.
Boom.
Boom.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
It's like the Coachella of marketing. That's what we're gonna do.
There's gonna be stuff.
We're
Thanks
gonna do
for
stuff.
listening, guys.
All right, thanks anyway. We're losing it.
Bye.
Bye.